Hello everybody, Megazard here, back at it again to give y'all another very exciting video. And recently, we're just right off the heels of that most recent Nintendo Direct, where it was basically like a 2-for-1. We managed to get the Indie World Showcase as well as the Nintendo Direct Partner Showcase. Now, it was kind of crazy because in the lead up to this, it was kind of rumored that we might get some kind of event within like the last week of August. That happened to be true and stuff like that, when we're kind of been known around this time frame to always have some kind of general Nintendo Direct happen in the month of September. But with all things considered, with us knowing that there's going to be a new successor console to the Nintendo Switch sometime in the distant horizon, we could be expecting that announcement at any point, and probably to have a release for it in the year of 2025. We already know that we have everything stacked up in terms of first party games from Nintendo from like September with Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom all the way down to like November with Mario and Luigi Brothership. I wasn't expecting the general Nintendo Direct to probably drop in the month of September. So for them to kind of do a 2-for-1 presentation kind of speaks volumes in terms of like where Nintendo's kind of off. They're kind of more like in the off season right now. They already kind of played out all their cards for the rest of this year, though. Is just kind of sit back and relax and wait for the next big thing, though. But them combining the Indie World Showcase as well as the Partner Showcase into one to kind of give it that grand feeling of the 40-minute presentation we'll have with the General Nintendo Direct isn't a bad move by them, though. So we might as well go ahead and talk about all these different games they managed to talk about. I'm not going to mention every single thing within like both of these Nintendo Directs, but at least most of the things that's the most notable things that kind of stood out to me, especially within the Indie World segment. So we might as well go ahead and jump up in that segment first, though, because at least within the Indie Worlds, there's only, I think, about 3, maybe 4 games that remotely interested me in general. And I think the rest of them, I'm like, oh my gosh, like, I don't know. I know there are audiences for some of these games though, but there's not been like a lot of games in these past Indie World showcases where it's like, hey, I really want to get one of these games though. I know everybody and their mama still wants to get Hollow Knight, Silk Song and stuff, and I fully went in this presentation like, nah, it's not gonna happen. The time it is gonna happen is when nobody talks about that mess. And when's that gonna happen? Shoot, at this point it's gonna be a Switch 2 game, to be honest, though. Maybe dropping it out at launch. Maybe they're trying to time it with that, though. But they gave us games like Balatro, Coffee Talk Tokyo, Cruising Date Everything, Moth Kubit, Morsels, Metal Slug Tactics, Neva, On Your Trail, Peglim, Pyco Part 2. Europa was cool, but we had that in the last Indie World Showcase, though. Closest thing to like a Breath of the Wildish field within like an the Indie World aspect and such. So I was like, okay, that one looked cool, but we already kind of knew about it. But then you have Wobble Life and such. But these next 4, I think, are probably the ones that most people might have had their eyes up on. One of them was Shovel Knight, Shovel of Hope DX, which I know they're doing that remake for Shovel Knight and stuff. So I know a lot of people are kind of keeping their eyes out on that one, though. I'm just not necessarily a big Shovel Knight fan. So for those that love that series, hey, you got something right there. Sea of Stars is having a new DLC drop. At least if you own the game for this one, it's a free DLC, so you can't go wrong with that. I dabble with Sea of Stars back whenever it was free for PlayStation Plus near its launch. There was just too many games coming out before and after that release where I was like, I just never was really able to sink my teeth up in that game, though. But if I ever had the time, I might try to actually look at it a little bit more so, though. But it did look kind of cool, though. Shockingly enough, Power Wash Simulator had a crossover with Shrek. Like, you're literally power washing off different parts of the swamp, the door, inside, outside. Yes, that stall that Shrek always uses in the outhouse and stuff. It's kind of clever, though. And while, yes, that seems like a kind of a dumb, weird announcement, though, I know that's going to do gangbusters in terms of those that really like Power Wash Simulator stuff. So I was like, okay, whatever, though. But definitely the highlight of the show was what they ended the Indie World Showcase with. And I had a feeling they might have came out and announced this along with some of my other friends. I know Steven, a good, my co-host on the podcast, I know he was leaping out of his seat for joy on this one. And that was what Pizza Tower. They ended off the presentation with that. And we don't have to wait too long for this game because it's actually available right now. So yeah, that was an actual shadow drop, which there was quite a bit of shadow drops throughout this whole entire Nintendo Direct. So hey, you might as well just kind of take a scroll through the Nintendo eShop because there might be something out there for you that they managed to drop out during that presentation. You can play right now though. So yeah, that one looked kind of cool. I mean, obviously that one's kind of like very it's inspired by, you know, like the Wario Land games and such though. And I was looking at that. It's crazy how we had Pizza Tower that was announced later than like Anton Blast, which also has some same Wario vibes going on with it, but it came out before it came out before Anton Blast, which is supposed to come out I think sometime in the month of November, like late in the holiday season or something like that. So yeah, so crazy stuff right there. So Pizza Tower definitely was the one to kind of keep your eye out on in terms of all of these different announcements that was showcased off in the Indie World Showcase. So not a terrible show. I just know it's not usually as strong and it resonates with me quite as bit. I felt like these shows were a little bit better closer towards the beginning of the Switch's life. Like I was almost able to pull something out of those shows almost every time, or at least, you know, one thing out of like the few shows they do every year. All right, now with the Indie World Showcase out of the way, it's time to talk about the Partner Showcase though, because with this one, they managed to come out with some decently strong third-party games, some things I wasn't necessarily expecting, some things that were pleasant surprises. And I know for some people out there, a lot of people are gonna really appreciate some of these announcements. So we kicked this thing off. Honestly, for most of these titles that were in this Partner Showcase, heavy emphasis on old games that are just being brought up to the modern day era. Like that's the major focus with this one Partner Showcase. So you kick things off with one of the oldest of the old with Tetris Forever that's announced from Digital Eclipse, which is basically like 9 old classic Tetris games. Everything from Tetris to Hatris to Tetris 2 to Super Bombliss, Super Bombliss DX, Tetris, like, ooh, one Japanese Tetris thing though, Super Tetris 3. A lot of these titles and stuff that you probably never even heard of before though, but they're all in one big collection. And interestingly enough, they do have like a documentary on some of how these older Tetris games were made and such. So even from that alone, if you just happen to be an avid Tetris fan, aficionado, whatever you want to call it though, hey, you might really like and appreciate this one collection though. And they didn't even stop there. They had a couple more collaborations, like Tetris NES will be coming to Nintendo Switch Online later this winter. It's odd how they said, hey, we're gonna announce it several months in advance. Like, you know, this probably ain't gonna drop until November or December later this year though. So it's weird how they announced it this early on though, but okay, whatever though. And also they're gonna have a Tetris crossover with Tetris 99. Yeah, that sounds a little bit odd though, but honestly, yeah, nice stuff right there. This next one, Star Overdrive. This one looks really interesting because I know there's a lot of fans out there that really like skateboarding games, like your Tony Hawks and stuff like that. But when I looked at this one, the way how you kind of traverse around the open world on a hoverboard and then you get to hop off of it and then fight random things that are out in the environment and stuff, it's like a really big open world sandboxy kind of adventure and such with a little bit of RPG-ish elements up in there. I was like, oh goodness, I certainly wasn't expecting something cool like this. It is going to be a Switch Time exclusive, so I'm hoping that the performance on this is actually really cool, because if so, I might actually take a look at this game though. Now, however, it's not coming out anytime soon. It's going to be dated for some point in 2025. Maybe we're lucky with a first half of the year 2025 release date though. But it was one that definitely caught my eye. Then you had games such as Goat Simulator 3. I'm not a big fan of that. Legend of Heroes Trails in the Sky. That's coming in like 2025. You know, I hear a lot of good things about like the Legend of Hero Trail series and such. I just never tried out one of those games, and I feel like I'm gonna have to at some point, because like I have another good friend Dane. Like I know he loves this series a lot, and I'm like I always see him talking about it. I'm like, gosh dang it! I was like, I might have to do this try it out at one point though. Then you have SpongeBob SquarePants, the Patrick Star game, which that one, it's not. I don't know why I wanted to say it gave me GTA vibes. It's not like GTA vibes. This is more like a mess around. Like it's a physics based game. You do whatever, wreck the place up, or you know, tamper with things and such. This honestly will be a perfect game literally for kids though. I know it's not going to be something I would personally like, even though yes, I do love myself some SpongeBob and stuff though. But hey, if you got some kids or something like that, they probably might really enjoy this, or maybe you. I ain't the one to judge here. Fitness Boxing 3 is coming out on December 5th. How the heck are there three of these titles right now? I felt like they just released like the first version of Fitness Boxing like only like a year or two ago. It's crazy how many of these things they're actually pumping out though. But okay, if you want to get your fitness on, go ahead and do that. Capcom Fighting Collection 2 was announced, and we already had that first Fighting Collection. It was close to around when that Switch originally launched, but now within this new one, we got like Capcom versus SNK 1 and 2, Project Justice, Capcom Fighting Evolution, um, Plasma Store, and even Power Stone 1 and 2, along with one other game. I'm like, oh my goodness, they really pulled some deep cuts. And from what I'm hearing in the fighting game community, man, they're having a field day up on this. I felt like it wasn't even just long ago that we managed to get Marvel vs. Capcom to be announced and released, which they did manage to follow that up in this presentation, because they did manage to give the release date for it. Digital owners will be able to pick it up on September 12th. However, if you want to pick it up physically, it's coming out November 22nd. That's like a week after my birthday. I already had the physical edition pre-order. So it's going to be unfortunate. I'm going to have to wait just an extra, couple of months beyond its digital release though. But hey, the value of that game and how, the history of it being delisted and such, I was like, I got to pick this thing up. Like, I'm not going to roll the dice on this one. Then you had Altair Yumiya, which is basically like the next game in the Altair series. And I was like, oh, okay. This one was really throwing me for a loop. Like, it looked kind of cool at first, but then I started to kind of notice some little graphical hiccups and stuff in terms of like the frame rate or the way how the graphics look and something like that. And I was like, oh, okay. I know that this ain't necessarily going to be probably a game for me, but if you're a fan of like the Altair Ryza game, then hey, this is y'all's next new game right here. So y'all got to really enjoy that. Suikoden 1 plus 2 HD remaster coming out March 6, 2025. We finally have a release date for that. Honestly, I almost forgot. For some reason, I thought this game was already out at this point though. And I guess they're just having this game cooking in the kitchen for a really long old time though, because now we finally managed to get another update on it. It's looking really good and really clean. Depending on what games come out around its launch day, I might have to dabble or pick this one up or just kind of keep my eyes on it though. But that one looks really cool. And then we had Dragon Quest 3. Yes, RPG upon RPG upon RPG in this show. But Dragon Quest 3 HD 2D, we already know it's coming out November 14. Pre-orders are up today. This kind of gave another good look at it though, in terms of like the monster compatibility and such, as well as like different costumes and stuff you're wearing. It's more like a casual reminder that game's coming out. I still love the fact it's coming out on my birthday, November 14. So some good stuff there. Oh shoot, y'all, we're rewinding the clock back to the DS era, because the Castlevania Dominious collection was announced, and oh my goodness, this collection of this 3 good DS games from Castlevania, in terms of like, here are the 3: Castlevania Portrait of Ruin, Castlevania Order of Ecclesia, and Castlevania Dawn of Sorrow. I always heard some really great things about this, and fans were just clamoring on and said, hey, is there any kind of way how we can get these DS games in the modern era? Like, the Castlevania series had a couple of different collections already. I had the first collection already on the Nintendo Switch, and then there was already a second collection though, and now they're finally dropping out these games, and it's available now. It was one of those shadow drops, so that's some really great stuff right there. So I'm gonna have to take a quick look at that one though. Then you had games such as like Civilization 7, or I was like, oh, okay, yeah, that ain't a game for me. Tales of Grapes F remaster, hey, another good RPG that managed to get remastered. It's like Tales series fans, y'all eating pretty good. My Sims Cozy Bundle, I'm like, okay, what the heck were we doing over here though? I'm surprised they didn't put a mainline Sims game on the Switch. Like, that felt like that would have print money easily though. But you come out with some weird looking stuff like this, I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, okay. FNAF Help Wanted 2. This literally was like basically like a side series for the FNAF people. Steven, yes, I know he was chomping at the bit. He's like, hey, this is my second game for me relating around pizza and stuff. Like, if you don't already know, the man loves pizza, so I know he's really looking forward to this game right here though. But yeah, that's coming out holiday 2024. And that's just like, oh, and there's also like free DLC for FNAF Security Breach Ruin as well though. Then they went into the general montage of games that are coming out in the distant horizon, like Epic Mickey 2, that's supposed to be coming out in September, Tales of Schreier, Just Dance 2025, the game that always has a game releasing every year, Funko Fusion, oh, that's gonna flop. EA Sports FC 25 and Lego Horizons Adventure. Weird how with the Lego Horizon Adventures, they put the release date up on PlayStation's side in terms of like when you browse around their website, but they didn't give us the release date in the Nintendo Direct. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's a little bit weird though. Then we have like Rune Factory, Guardians of Zuma coming out spring 2025. I mean, that cutscene at the very beginning kind of got me a little bit. I was like, what kind of game is this? But I guess farming people really like to have their RPG elements up in their farming games. Like, you know, they're not just content with just the standard coziness anymore. We got to put a little spin up on it though. At least that's the kind of vibe I was kind of getting from the Rune Factory. I didn't even think that would even be a Rune Factory game when I was looking at the initial moments of it though. So I was like, oh, okay, whatever. And then you had that one last thing to close out the direct. And I was like, okay, with it being a partner showcase, I wasn't really expecting too much out of it though. But then I was like, well, maybe they'll pull a fast one on us. I was like, what could they possibly pull out of their hat of tricks to end this presentation off with a bang? They managed to come out and announce that Yakuza Kiwami is coming out to the Nintendo Switch. This is essentially Yakuza 0, which basically takes place about 17 years before the first game within the Yakuza series, though. So it's kind of like one of them origin stories in terms of the series, though. And this one's kind of wild right here because I remember hearing some developer talks or some interviews and stuff from, you know, the people at Sega that actually work on the Yakuza series, and they said, hey, we probably don't see ourselves putting a Yakuza game on the Switch because it seems like it's a family friendly system, and it doesn't seem like that might be the environment that we really want to put our games out on. I remember hearing some weird mess about that back in the day, and look where we at right now in August of 2024 with this game coming out. It's not even taking that long for it to come out. It's coming out on October 24th. The only unfortunate thing is when I was going around and doing my digging a little research on it though, it's only going to be available digitally on the eShop. There's not going to be like a physical retail version of this one, which is going to be a little bit unfortunate though. However, the fact that we are getting a Yakuza game on the Nintendo Switch is crazy in and of itself. I mean, finally Sega is putting two and two together because I could tell that this series could actually do pretty well considering how big the user base is for the Nintendo Switch now is. And you have adults playing this, or young adults, teenagers and stuff that play this system and such. So they might be potential fans for Yakuza. You just never know. So that was really nice and a pleasant surprise to see that end off the show or end off the Nintendo Direct with a big and major announcement from Sega themselves. Alrighty, and that just about does it in terms of all of the different announcements that was made within this one Nintendo Direct from the Indie World Showcase as well as the Nintendo Direct Partner Showcase. Now, it was kind of interesting how they did fuse both these events together, but if they were to release both of these separately, especially the Indie World stuff, but maybe even a little bit on the Partner Showcase, it would have felt a little bit lackluster in a way, considering how we always are accustomed to these big general Nintendo Directs in the month of September though. But then that also kind of led people down and kind of running with some conspiracy theories and stuff. It's like, wait, did they move this event up for something that could potentially happen in the month of September, a little bit bigger, that could relate with the Nintendo Switch 2? Because they did say earlier when they made this announcement that, hey, don't expect anything in this presentation in terms of the Switch 2 or any games for it. Who's not to say that something like that could happen in the not too far distant future? I'll leave it at that. I'll let y'all run wild with it. But at least in terms of these presentations, I thought they were pretty solid. I like the Partner Showcase. You know, I didn't have my expectations entirely too high though. Indie World necessarily wasn't for me though, but I do like the couple or a few games in there that look kind of cool. And I'll see if I manage to pick up Pizza Tower for myself though. But that's going to basically do it in terms of like my overall thoughts for this Nintendo Indie World presentation fused with the Nintendo Direct Partner Showcase. That's just a weird mouthful to say right there, though. But y'all gotta let me know down in the comment section down below what all do you think about these two different presentations. Was there a game up in here that you're really looking forward to the most? More so probably for a lot of people might be the Partner Showcase, but you know, there might have been a cool game or two within the Indie World Showcase that you might have really liked as well. Just let me know. That's gonna do it for today's video, though. So remember, y'all, until our video I make next, see y'all.